In the Hearts and Minds, Book 0, The Birth of a Hero, Story 30, The End That Is the Beginning. There once was a platter of food piled high. The crispy, crackery flatbread broke, spilling crumbs and crumbles all down the side. They descended into an ink-black abyss. They did not reach the end. Perhaps they were still falling. They were still waiting for what they would find at the other end. Not all of the crumbs fell over the side of the platter. Some had spread through the cheese dishes, the bread tray, gathered at the base of the wine glass, and even sprinkled across the vegetable sides. When the hand reached out to grab from the platter, the fork it used helped to cut those crumbs into smaller and smaller pieces. Soon, the crumbs from the flatbread cracker could not be discerned, whether in the darkness below the tray, nor mixed in with all of the other dishes arrayed upon the platter. If one cannot see it, does that mean the crumbs do not exist? If one does not exist anymore, did they ever exist at all? It would be simpler if this was a basic dish, but the platter that was prepared is far too labor-intensive and complicated to be pared down into simplicity. Who saves the crumbs who fell into the abyss? The other crumbs, who remember, who see. Who saves the crumbs who did not fall into the abyss, but were forcibly mixed into the rest of the platter? Something like a ghost and something like a demon walked through a jungle town for the first time. And though it was for the first time, she knew where to go. One of her heroes had left their mark before she had arrived. It was hard to communicate with the wolf, but it was much easier to sign his transfer documents to the northern estate. Since Vardy Hamilton had become the director of the Hero Association, she and Bran had divided up the frosted. Those who still had their minds remained under Vardy's care. They underwent a process of glamification, costumes, hobbies, personalities idealized for the public to learn, heroes for them to glorify, especially now that the presidency had fallen out of favor. The ones who had lost themselves retired and were taken up north to an estate that they had transferred most of the development money in the Frosted program into rehabilitation. She had made enemies doing that. She had surprised Pandagroni doing that. It was almost worth the cost, just to see the look on his face. Vardy knew he never would have allowed either her or Bran to take a position of power if he had not believed they were truly broken. Vardy had even surprised herself, which was not an unwelcome sensation. She knew she did not actually have the power to change the world, but perhaps this was something closest to it. Calamentia had an iron wall defense. Though Truvia had never actually tried to invade, each time they had sent diplomats and merchants, they were rebuffed. It built up a reputation that the Empire could not be trifled with. The wolf was all that was needed, apparently. Not that Vardy cared, nor that she would report such a finding to her superiors. The village was peaceful and well-loved, even this tiny shack she stood in front of now. The door was made of some type of green wood, with wicker or golden branches as the edging. The thing couldn't be more than 7 feet deep. It was barely wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. "You know I am here," she said to the box. Her voice was loud in this idyllic, peaceful village. "Your ghosts would have told you by now." Silence. "I saw blood on my way in. Are you injured? The wolf doesn't know how to talk and not kill. Has Iago Denfar reconnected with you yet?" Silence. Vardy opened the door. She was completely unsurprised at the weapon pointed in her face. She was unsurprised at the ferocity with which Pinata clenched a sharp branch, glaring. She was a little surprised about the rest, however. 2 trembling kids, a baby, an unconscious man, an orange cat. "You've been busy, haven't you?" Vardy took in the red stains on Pinata's dress, the pallor of her face, the overall stench of something earthy and old. "How are you still standing? You look as if you're the ghost." Pinata simply bared her teeth in a snarl. Vardy was not used to speaking so many words at once, and so she fell quiet. She studied the young mother, studied the girls clutching at each other, cradling the baby between their bodies, and the man. Vardy swore she recognized him, but she couldn't say where. Finally, Pinata dipped a step forward. Vardy realized her feet were bare and bloody. "You will have to kill me, but I promise you, I will kill you first," she challenged. Something in her wild, fierce eyes made Vardy believe her. Vardy cocked her head to the side. A sensation of danger prickled down her spine. It had been a long, long time since she had felt like this. A smidge of fear, trepidation, caution. "I'm only going to make this offer once," Vardy said. "If you keep running, you will continue to be hunted. The only way to survive is to die." Pinata scoffed, but Vardy ignored her. She held out her hand, looking the crazed mother in the eyes. She realized the last time they had seen one another, she had been the crazed one. No, they both were. They had always been alike. Vardy could see that now. Perhaps that dumb orange brat had been at least a little bit right on one thing. "If you want to survive, you will come with me." "Why would I ever do that?" "Because you need my help," Vardy said simply. "Why would you help me?" "I don't know." The stick trembled in the air as Pinata took a bracing breath. Vardy could tell that this young woman was possibly seconds from passing out. "That's not good enough," the young mother said. Vardy stepped away from the door. She listened to the nighttime bugs, watched a lone lantern flame bob in the distance between tree trunks. The empire was filled with much mystery, but the most mystifying thing was how there could be a night filled with this much peace. "What other option do you have?" Vardy called back. "You need a doctor. The girls need a doctor. That unconscious man needs a doctor. I'm sure your infant needs a doctor. What other choice do you have?" Pinata followed her out under the moon-filled sky. "I will not allow Truvia to have my daughter, even if I must destroy you right here, even if it destroys me in the process." "I don't know how to change the world," Vardy said, pausing. "I don't think I have the power to do much of anything. What can I do? Kill everyone. That is all I am meant for. I don't think that is the kind of change you are after." "What's your point?" Vardy turned away from the young woman and stared up at the moon. "My point is, I do not have the power to change the world. I know I don't." Her gaze drifted gently down to rest on the way the moon made Pinata's hair shine like watery waves. "But you do." "What?" Vardy swallowed. She imagined she could see something blue standing behind Pinata, cheering her on with a loving gaze, but when she blinked it was only trees. There was nothing there. "I am so tired," she confessed to her enemy. "Perhaps I am very tired." Silence bound the two of them into the pinkening hours of morning. Pinata was barely a leaf trembling on a branch. She was bent, gaze roving and unfocused. She would not stay conscious for much longer. She should have fallen a while ago, Vardy assumed. It would be considered a miracle, but Vardy wasn't surprised. Everything this couple did was miraculous. "Aren't you tired too?" Vardy eventually asked, voice croaking after the hours they had spent in quiet stillness. And that was all that was needed. A breach in a dam made the water all float out. Pinata's first cry was sharp, but the rest were very low and sloppy. That unconscious man came outside, crawled, more like, blood coating his neck, face, and arms. What happened? What is it? The baby began crying in the background. Around the world, the group couldn't know it, but each time that baby cried, it was felt by those who had more power than they needed. In the halls of rebels and sugar cane, they felt her cry. In the orchards of flowers and survivors, they felt her cry. In the decrepit vineyards of a family that was, they felt her cry. I am, Pinata sobbed into her palms, the man hovering and glaring nervously at Vardy. I am so tired. Vardy held out her hand once more. While around the world, the shock waves of the baby's cries produced a certain spark, a certain feeling, and she said, Come with me. Who is it that saves the crumbs who fall into the abyss? The ones who remember them, the other crumbs. But who saves the crumbs who scattered across the platter? The man helped the young mother to her feet and walked those few feet to Vardy's hand. It ended up as something of a group handshake, hand over hand over hand. Let's go. An array of light, blue and green and red and yellow, banded behind the trio as they grabbed the kids and the cat and the cows hiding in the trees. One by one, piece by piece, each ray of color ascended out of that inky plain, and in the light there amassed a most peculiar feeling. It was similar to what was instinctively felt all around the world by those with power to spare. Change was coming. Who saves the crumbs scattered to the winds? They do it themselves. We, the people. We, the crumbs.